You're listening to Women's Media Center Live with Robin Morgan on 1580 Gov.biz Radio, a CBS station.
Welcome to Women's Media Center Live. I'm Robin Morgan. You're listening to us on CBS radio station Gov.biz, 1580 AM in the Washington, D.C. area, or on the web, WMClive.com, where you can also find links to podcasts of previous shows. And let us hear from you. Call the comment line, 347-903-WMC1, or tweet hashtag WMCLive, or email us at womensmediacenterlive@gmail.com. This week we're covering a whistle campaign for safety and the sexual politics of meat, plus 3 of the Women's Media Center Awards honorees, the WMC Social Media Award winner and the journalist Ling sisters, Lisa and Laura. But first, behind the headlines. Imagine an exceptional lieutenant colonel, an intelligence officer in the Army Reserve with security clearance to classified information, an officer who graduated with honors from West Point and became a doctoral student at King's College in London and at Harvard, studying military leadership, organizational and management theories, and U.S. foreign, defense, and intelligence policies. Later, winning assignments with the U.S. intelligence community, U.S. Special Ops Command, and an FBI Joint Terrorism Task Force. He lived, worked, or traveled in over 60 countries in Asia, Europe, Africa, and the Middle East during more than 15 years of military service in geopolitical analysis and counterterrorism, counterinsurgency operations. He also served on executive boards focused on supporting wounded warriors, veterans issues, women's leadership, public-private partnerships in national security, and weapons manufacturing and distribution. Now, imagine him as having expressive green eyes, toned arms, and seductively exposed armpits. What, you say? The officer is real, but not a he. It's a woman, Lieutenant Colonel Paula Broadwell. The demeaning, objectifying description of her is real, too. Broadwell is the woman who wrote a biography of and allegedly had an affair with former General and until last week CIA Director David Petraeus. He who is described as a brilliant, valiant, scholar warrior whose resignation, reluctantly accepted by President Obama, is mourned as a national loss on both sides of the congressional aisle. He who is 20 years Broadwell's senior and, oh yes, he who has been married for 36 years. The wife, Hollister Holly Knowlton Petraeus, is military royalty, her heritage traced to the Revolutionary War. The daughter of the West Point superintendent when Petraeus was a cadet, her brother, father, grandfather, great-grandfather, and great-great-grandfather had all enlisted. She married him and followed him, moving 23 times in 3 decades, raising their children as a virtual single mom since he was deployed so often and so long. But she also worked as director of the Better Business Bureau's military line, providing financial education and advice to soldiers and to their wives. In 2011, now Senator Elizabeth Warren appointed her Assistant Director of Service Member Affairs at the newly created Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. Today, furious would be an understatement, was the way a family friend described her to the press. She has been described in the press, traditional and new media, as long-suffering, his deployments, too involved with her own work, and grown frumpy. Ergo, she didn't deserve such a godly man. There are minor figures in this melodrama, too. Floridian Jill Kelly, termed the Tampa Kardashian, who, with her rich husband, throws lavish parties for generals, sort of a military groupie. There's another general milling around, too, General John Allen, also implicated through, quote, inappropriate emails to Jill Kelly Kardashian. Do these people know nothing about the Internet and emails? But the main characters are the big 3. Innocent fallen hero, wily temptress, boring betrayed wife. We've been here before. Lots. Gingrich, serial adulterer, while busily impeaching Clinton for the dalliance with Paula Jones. Oops, no, Jennifer Flowers. Wait, no, Monica somebody. Elliot Spitzer, who paid for it in more ways than one. John Edwards, Arnold Schwarzenegger, Mark Sanford, Jim McGreevey, who violated his marriage with a difference, the difference being another man. We've been here so often that this plot has its own TV series, The Good Wife. News so old that it's shocking how trite and sexist the coverage still largely is. First cliché, it's not his fault. From the Washington Post's portrait of Petraeus as the, quote, consummate gentleman and family man who, quote, let his guard down, poor passive babykins, to always reliable, what would we do without him, Pat Robertson, on how Broadwell must have initiated the affair that Petraeus was powerless to resist. Petraeus's conduct was understandable, Robertson says, because, quote, the man's off in a foreign land and he's lonely, and here's a good-looking lady throwing herself at him, and he's a man. Second cliché, it's the mistress's fault. She's a siren, quote, a shameless, self-promoting prom queen, a former colleague of Petraeus's told the press. A Jezebel, quote, willing to take full advantage of her special access to him. That's the Washington Post. Her attractiveness, her clothing, her old interviews are poured over and re-aired for double entendre effect. Remember, this is the same exemplary officer I described at the beginning. Third cliché, it's the wife's fault. Though a mother of two, and now a distinguished financial advocate for military wives, she faces press opportunism about her public humiliation as the victimized wife. She's also publicly scrutinized for being older, plumper, and plainer than Broadwell. Either way, clearly the women are to blame. Look, I know. The story has pizzazz, sex, uniforms, power, and the CIA. But could we finally lose the dreary stereotypes? Furthermore, could we dedicate just a fraction of the salacious coverage this story is garnering to consistent coverage of military sexual trauma and of sexual assault inflicted on military women by their fellow soldiers or superiors? Or how about consistent exposure of a military culture that assumes furloughs and shore leaves include brothel visits in, say, Southeast Asia, where the girls are actually 11 and 12-year-old children? Meanwhile, stay tuned. This story isn't disappearing soon. It has, as they say, legs, and they're not shapely either. Now, our first guest is Yifat Suskind. She is the executive director of Madre, where she works with women's human rights activists from Latin America, the Middle East, Asia, and Africa. It's a wonderful group. She's written extensively on U.S. foreign policy and women's human rights for the New York Times, the Washington Post, and the book The W Effect, Bush's War on Women, which was published by the Feminist Press. She's been featured as a commentator on CNN, National Public Radio, and BBC Radio. Yifat, welcome to Women's Media Center Live.
Thank you so much for having me, Robin.
Well, let's get right to talking about the Whistle campaign, because it's so extraordinary and its growth is just magical. Tell people what it is and how it began and how Madre is involved.
Sure. So this is a campaign that we call Blow the Whistle on Rape, and it involves a literal whistle. Whistles that we started distributing in the tent cities that cropped up all over Port-au-Prince in Haiti in the weeks and months after the earthquake of 2010. And I don't even know if people are aware, but there are still nearly 500,000 people living in tents. It's almost, in January, going to be 3 years since that earthquake. So that's a crisis that's ongoing. And I think any of us can imagine if we were displaced in a disaster and winding up in very overcrowded tent cities without lighting at night, without any policing, without any kind of social services, what an incredibly dangerous environment that would be. And in fact, what we saw in those tent camps in Haiti was what have been called epidemic levels of rape against women and girls. I got a call from a woman who is the founder of an organization by and for rape survivors in Haiti, who's herself a rape survivor, and who was living in these tent camps in the months after the earthquake. This is an organization that we've partnered with for many years at Madre, and Malia is her name. She called me and she said, we've got to do something because the women are losing their strength. The rape is so extensive, and people are so afraid that they're becoming sort of immobilized by the fear and by the constant attacks. And when she said that to me, I realized that, Malia was right, and that fear can really do that to us.
Of course.
And we started talking about, what could be a simple, immediate thing that women could have in hand to help them find their strength. And we thought of, and we did, distribute thousands and thousands of very loud whistles to women in these overcrowded tent cities. And we did some trainings about, how to use that whistle, how to blow it if you are facing an attack, how to blow it 3 times if you find someone who's been raped and needs help, how women can support each other and call on each other and keep each other safe and their children safe in an environment of extreme sexual violence without any kind of policing.
This is just brilliant. And tell how it caught on and the women became empowered by it. I just love when you talk about that.
It was really extraordinary, Robin. I talked to a woman in July of 2010, so 6 months after the earthquake, and we distributed a whistle to her, and she said the next day that was the first time that she slept through the night since the earthquake, because she finally felt like she had some way to protect herself and her daughter trying to sleep under this flimsy little tarp surrounded by people who she knew were, included among those people, perpetrators of rape.
And if somebody comes and attempts an assault and the woman blows the whistle, women come from all surrounding areas and tents and huts and to protect her.
Absolutely. And what wound up happening, I think all of us recognize that a plastic whistle is a very small and imperfect solution to a rape epidemic, as the UN has called it. But it had this really amazing sort of chain reaction of empowerment. The woman I talked to who told me I finally slept last night also told me, now I can think straight.
Oh.
And she started, and thousands of women along with her started organizing once they had those whistles. And once they felt their sense of self-confidence returning and their ability not only to protect themselves but to protect their children and to do what, as mothers and as adult women, they need to and want to be able to do, which is to provide for their families. And women started organizing, demanding that the UN, which was in charge of the conditions in those camps, provide policing, that they provide lighting, that they involve women, grassroots women, the ones living in the camps, in the governing mechanisms that were made available to deal with conditions in the camps. And Madre worked with them very closely.
Yeah.
And we actually took that organizing all the way to the United Nations and to the Human Rights Commission of the OAS, and won a court case that was really, in many ways, led by those women themselves living in the camps, who we worked with to create a legal petition based on their demands. Then you have to turn it into legal language and all of that.
And didn't you tell me once that you were Madre was carrying this to other countries, or it was catching fire in other countries?
Well, that's right. I traveled with a Madre delegation to northern Kenya last year, where there were very many Somali women and their children coming because of the famine in Somalia.
Of course.
Last year. And a lot of them were rape survivors, and a lot of them were living very, very destitute on the outskirts of refugee camps that were just full to capacity, and people were spilling over from those camps, and so living without any protection whatsoever. And when the women in northern Kenya heard about what the women in Haiti had done with these whistles, they were totally inspired, and they said to me, we need that. And we started working with them to figure out a whistle campaign, blow the whistle on rape in that context.
This is so much power and activism coming from a cheap little tin whistle. I mean, it's a brilliant strategy. I want to be very sure that our listeners hear you talk about the possibility of the CNN award and how they can help this group get it.
Sure. Well, Malia, who's the woman who we kind of dreamt up this campaign with, has actually been nominated to be one of this year's CNN heroes. And it's an online voting contest, a very, popular format, but a significant one. It gives us a chance to really talk to a lot of people about this issue. And we really want to make sure that, that she wins, that this year's CNN hero is the woman who has devoted her life to ending rape and to standing up for women and girls. And people can vote. I would, encourage people to do so on the CNN website.
They just go to the website. They just go to the website and find the heroes.
Right. It's called CNN Heroes, and it's a great campaign. If she wins, it'll mean a lot of money for us to be able to continue to keep the doors open of really the only rape crisis center that Madre has co-founded with Malia and her organization Kofaviv.
This is wonderful. This is wonderful.
It's amazing work, and it's great to be able to support it.
Well, Madre does amazing work and has for years, and you have to come back and talk about other programs that Madre has done and is doing. When people go to the CNN website, say again her name so that they're sure that they're clicking on the right candidate.
Her name is Malia, Malya, and she is the woman in Haiti who's the co-founder of Kofaviv, is the name of her organization. It's a very wonderful group founded by and for rape survivors in Haiti.
Thank you so much. Thank you for telling this story and spreading the word. Women in camps all over the world and in distress situations, I can see whistles being blown, figuratively and literally, because of this idea. It's a beautiful idea. Thanks so much, Yifat, and say that you'll come back again.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, Robin.
Take care.
You too.
We're going to take a short break here while you can let us know what you're thinking. You can tell us via email at womensmediacenterlive@gmail.com or on Twitter, #WMCLive. I'm Robin Morgan, and this is Women's Media Center Live, the talk show with a brain. Next, the parallels between oppression by sex and by species. After Hurricane Sandy, parts of the East Coast have returned to normal, but others won't see normal again for quite some time. One group getting volunteers and aid supplies to those who need it is called Occupy Sandy. Made up of a coalition of Occupy Wall Street activists, community organizers, and technologists, Occupy Sandy is using social media and other software tools to identify and quickly respond to urgent needs among the hardest-hit communities. You can help. To donate or to volunteer, visit occupysandy.org.
You're listening to Women's Media Center Live with Robin Morgan on 1580 Gov.biz Radio, a CBS station.
Welcome back. Our first guest is not your usual vegan. Carol J. Adams is an activist and the author of The Politics of Meat, Living Among Meat Eaters, and other books, all informed with an intensely feminist perspective. She's lectured across North America and Europe with her slideshow, The Sexual Politics of Meat. Carol, welcome to Women's Media Center Live.
Thank you, Robin. It's great to connect with you.
It's hard to believe that recently the 20th anniversary edition of The Sexual Politics of Meat came out. You wrote an amazing movement classic here, with the subtitle, A Feminist Vegetarian Critical Theory. One reason that I have so respected your work for so long is that you are absolutely consistent in your feminism. This is not a granola bin kind of, well, we put the women's thing aside because of animal rights. You have been critical of PETA and a number of animal rights groups for objectifying women in their ads or their fundraising. You have been relentlessly clear-sighted in seeing the connections between patriarchy and meat eating. So I congratulate you.
Thank you. Ever since Sexual Politics of Meat came out, people have sent me images and sent me sexist ads and speciesist ads and misogynist ads, and it's almost as though my readers demand of me that I continue to analyze.
Well, you are continuing, are you not? I mean, that you speak quite a lot around the country, and you have is it a slideshow? It's a whole presentation about the pornography of meat eating.
It's really examining all the different ways, almost kaleidoscopic, that sexual politics of meat has insinuated itself into our culture, so that once you see from this perspective, you're going to approach cultural representations in a different way, and hopefully how you eat and how you relate to women.
Yes, talk a little bit about the work that you're doing in terms of the analogies with the war on women. Excuse me, I've just had a frog die in my throat.
As feminists, we've always talked about how there are patriarchal structures, and we've always noticed that the white male perspective has been universal, has positioned itself in a way that it's the perspective you're supposed to presume at looking at bodies. Mm-hmm. And then there's always an appropriation of female bodies. Now, first, I see all of that in the way animals are depicted as food. They're often depicted as female. Even a recent New Yorker cartoon contest that's going on during November is a sexual politics of meat. It's showing a turkey with a fishnet stocking.
Oh, and it's in the language. It's bitch,
high culture. It's low culture.
Bitch, cow,
and what I've noticed in the past year is that the sort of Republican right-wing attack on basic women's rights has been expressed and anticipated through a variety of meat ads. Carl's ads that show a woman eating a large burger as though women are only orifices and women are to be silenced. A lot of regressive patrolling of men, so that Slim Jims will do ads that show men, say, sitting behind a woman in a scooter, and so there's a patrolling of that man's activity, that he should not be doing that. He should not be subservient to a woman, and they have to come and show him the right way to act. Burger King trivializes legitimate concerns about the women's liberation movement in its famous I Am Man ad. Even Sesame Street has done a recent thing where chickens are singing I Am Chicken, Hear Me Roar.
You're kidding.
Where chickens want to be consumed. So it's positive to be an object. They take a classic song from the women's liberation movement and sort of reverse it. That it's, rather than us wanting to be free, we want to be captive.
Sesame Street.
It's positive to want to be dominated.
That one hurts.
Right now, 50 Shades of Grey has a parody cookbook called 50 Shades of Chicken, and it's a way of demeaning women's legitimate concerns.
Are you at all heartened? I mean, I am, but I'm not an expert on this particular connection the way that you are. Are you at all heartened by the way this consciousness seems to have mushroomed, to use a food word, in the years since you first wrote this book? I mean, it seems to me that almost everyone I know who is a young person, under 30, even 35, is in one way or another a vegetarian or a vegan. There used to be one vegetarian restaurant in a town, and now there's a whole cuisine. The combination the connections that you make with objectification of women, I'm afraid, is not as connected in the general psyche as I would like, or I'm sure you would like, but at least vegetarianism, whether for health or environmental reasons, seems to have taken off. Are you heartened by that?
I'm certainly heartened by that. I believe veganism is a part of how we as feminists, progressive feminists, should be living in the world, but I don't think it's the be-all and the end-all. It's sort of a minimal ethical stance. It's not. You haven't finished changing the world by becoming a vegan. It's the minimal standard that I have. Become a vegan. Stop using sort of the enslaved, the products of enslaved females. Chickens and dairy cows are the ones who suffer the most. So, there's this particular feminist issue there in the using of dairy products and eggs. So I'm heartened by veganism. Of course, it's easier for me to travel around the country. I can actually get some good food.
Yes.
But I feel it's very important to situate veganism within a progressive politics that's challenging sexism and racism and as well. And during the past year, when I see so much regressive politics, I just want to make sure that I'm empowering animal rights activists to continue to make connections. And I think the reason sexual politics of meat sort of exploded onto the scene was it gave animal rights activists a way of saying, hey, this is a social justice issue related to other social justice issues.
Yes, and this is
that was such a positive thing.
Well, this is also what I love about your work is that it makes those real connections, and it doesn't settle for, as some vegetarian spokespeople had done before you, for a kind of purity that if you just ate a certain diet, political activism was beneath you. You are plunged in up to your elbows. And to me, if I had to name one quality about patriarchy, and its genius, it would be compartmentalizing people, countries, issues. And if I had to name one quality about feminist energy and thought that was its genius, it would be connectivity. And your work embodies that.
Well, thank you. And I do agree with you. The more compartmentalized we are, the less we're likely to see the sort of interconnections. And I see this sometimes in feminist bloggers where they protest something that's sexist about an ad that's actually sexist and speciesist. For instance, what's going on right now about Amherst College, that they had a T-shirt last spring that's just terrible, showing a woman as though she's being on a pig roast. And now it's come out that there's been a certain rape culture there. But the feminist who looked at that ad, at that T-shirt, said, well, we shouldn't look at women this way. And my intervention is saying we're looking at women this way because we've always looked at animals this way. Mm-hmm. And as long as women are in this rather precarious position where we are not recognized as fully human, because we are going to be compared to and seen as lower than the patriarchal model of humanity, we're going to be compared to animals and what happens to animals. As long as we do this to animals, that very violation stands as a representation of how patriarchy might look at women as well.
Tell people the blog, the URL.
My website is www.caroljadams.com, and I blog at Blogspot, Carol J. Adams Blogspot, which can be linked to from my website, www.caroljadams.com. And I'd just like to say to feminists who think that animal rights is equated with PETA, animal rights around the world is being led by grassroots women. I've met many of them. They are feminist to the core. They see interconnections and they want to change. They articulate that. And one of the shames about the supremacy of PETA in our public consciousness is that the women doing the real work who really get connections are lost from view.
Thank you for being with us, Carol, on Women's Media Center Live.
Thank you so much, Robin.
Well, time for another pause. I'm Robin Morgan here with Women's Media Center Live. We'll be back with the journalists Laura Ling and Lisa Ling, recipients of the WMC Sisterhood is Powerful Award. Don't go away.
When you have a drug or alcohol problem, your whole world stops making sense. You can get help for yourself or a loved one and make sense of life again.
Good morning.
For information, treatment referral, and most importantly, help, call 1-800-662-HELP.
Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services.
You're listening to Women's Media Center Live with Robin Morgan on 1580 gov.biz radio, a CBS station.
And we're back with Real Sisterhood. Laura Ling is the host and reporter on E! Investigates. In 2009, while reporting on trafficking of North Korean women, she and her colleague Eula Lee were arrested by North Korean soldiers and held captive for 140 days. Lisa Ling hosts Our America with Lisa Ling on OWN, that's the Oprah Winfrey Network. She has reported from dozens of countries. The sisters co-authored Somewhere Inside, One Sister's Captivity and the Other's Fight to Bring Her Home. Welcome to both of you, Lisa and Laura. Welcome to Women's Media Center Live.
Thank you for having us, Robin. Hi, Robin.
Hi there. It's just a delight to celebrate the two of you. You are taking sisterhood, being powerful, to yet another level, and we're so pleased that you're going to be accepting the award. I want to start with a question for both of you. It's remarkable to find anyone in journalism with as strong a feminist consciousness and focus on stories as the two of you each have. Laura, I know that when you were infamously arrested and detained in North Korea, it was because you were doing a story on trafficking along the border with China, and you covered women's rights in Turkey. And Lisa, you've done rape in the Congo and covered bride burning in India. How did this come about? Is there a dynamite feminist mother somewhere in the background?
You know, it's Lisa speaking. No, it kind of happened accidentally, to be honest. Laura and I both come from a very small town, a suburb outside of Sacramento, California, and our parents got divorced when we were very young. We were, in fact, raised by our father for the most part, because my mother moved to Los Angeles, although she was a big part of our lives. And we never got a chance to travel that much. And I started working for a show called Channel 1 News when I was 18 years old that started to send me all over the world. It was a show that was seen only in schools. And so it had this incredible objective to introduce students to what was happening in the world. And so by 21 years old, I was covering the civil war in Afghanistan. And then the following year, I was covering the democracy movement in Iran and the civil war in Algeria. And it was through that opportunity to see the world and all that was happening in it, for the most part, that really opened my eyes. And when it came to covering stories about women, you know, you can't ignore the disparities and the things that are happening to women in the world. And even as a young person, it left a scar on my heart and propelled me to want to continue telling these kinds of stories, because it was so clear that the American audience was unaware of so many atrocities and things that were happening to the givers of life and half of the world's population.
Wow.
And this is Laura. You know, I kind of followed in my sister's footsteps. I also worked at Channel 1 after Lisa left there. And I would have to say the same, just being out in the world, you can't ignore the fact that women are so unequal. So many places you go, you see the human rights abuses and the inequalities, many of which are affecting women. And so, I think we have a similar path. But Lisa and I are also, because our parents were divorced, we kind of helped raise each other and had a really strong influence on each other.
You're not twins, as the rumor has it, right? Are you?
Sorry? We're not twins.
No, you're not twins. So
we're 3 years apart,
you're 3 years
our voices sound shockingly similar, to the point where we confuse our parents, sometimes even intentionally.
And who is the older sister?
Lisa is older.
Lisa is older. You make me long for not just sisterhood in the abstract, but in the concrete. Yes, you're both, of course, absolutely right. Although, and that's what Women's Media Center is about, is making women visible and powerful in the media. But it is amazing how many journalists can wander the world and not see what is right in front of them, which was so moving to you and changed you. A question for Laura. We all know about how you and Yoona Lee were detained in North Korea, and the world sort of held its breath. You're still traveling the country and talking about that experience, and I know that the two of you wrote a book about it, a quite wonderful book. But it's been, 3 years now, I think, or something like that. How has that experience changed you and your life and your journalism?
Well, it's really changed so many aspects of my life. It was very hard for me to talk about that experience when I came home because a lot of the spotlight was on me, and here I had gone to tell a story about these women who were being trafficked out of one terrible, horrible situation in North Korea to a different kind of desperation in China, where many are lured into the prostitution industry. Others are sold into marriages to Chinese men once they are smuggled into China. Mm-hmm. And so for the focus to be on me, that was very uncomfortable. But and so I took to writing. That was very therapeutic and cathartic, especially to be able to do it with my sister. Mm. And after I wrote the book, I was able to talk about it much more openly and realize that I do have a voice, and if I can share with people not only the struggles that not only the struggles that these women are going through, but also about what I experienced in North Korea, then I can be using my voice for something good. So I do try to continue to speak about that issue, but I am doing great, and I'm grateful every single day to be home with my family and to have the freedoms that I am able to enjoy.
You have a daughter, don't you?
I do. She is 2.5 years old.
I remember pictures of her.
My husband and I had her pretty quickly after we got home.
Yes, yeah. It's every journalist's nightmare is to become the story, which of course happened to you. But look at to re-recite a cliche, look at the lemonade you made out of those lemons. I mean, it's extraordinary.
Thank you.
I have a question also for you, Lisa. I know that after a very painful miscarriage, you went public about the experience online, and then out of that, you and Sophia Kim created the Secret Society to offer a sort of confidential community online to women. Would you talk a little bit about that? That seems like a wonderful support and consciousness-raising group.
Well, I was quite, as you can imagine, devastated after suffering a miscarriage. And, yes. And I really, at the time, was kind of at a loss for how to act or what to do or what to say. And I felt like it was my fault. I mean, I'm someone who is extremely type A, and I've always felt like I could accomplish anything. And so when that happened, I really felt like, what did I do? This is my fault. And so I felt very alone. And then when I started talking to a lot of my friends and colleagues, I had come to the realization that so many women had gone through what I'd experienced, but they sort of had this. There was a shame about it that they carried, and I didn't really understand why. And so my colleague Sophia and I started this website because when you stop and think about it, there are so many things that women hold inside of them that they
and blame themselves for.
They keep secret. They don't even share with their closest family members or friends. And so we created this forum where women could confidentially and anonymously share with each other, these things that they've been kind of carrying on their hearts. And we created this community for women to be able to do so anonymously. And
it's taken off with women using it all over the place, hasn't it?
Oh, yeah. It's become this incredible forum. And, I have to say that I am always touched when I go to the site and women just spill their guts and open their hearts in a way that they don't do anywhere else, because they know that they can find support and community in one another, and there's no place for them really to do it.
Give the URL so that our listeners can...
It's www.secretsocietyofwomen.com.
I love even the name. We've only got about another minute, but I have one last question for the two of you. Both of you are successful journalists. Both of you host your own television shows. Yet you know that is not common in the media, and women are consistently underrepresented, much less misrepresented. What do you think? What's your take on what needs to happen to move this along with more speed?
Well, I actually think that things are changing, but I think until women assume more executive positions, it's going to take a little while. Some of the biggest news divisions and television outlets are still helmed by groups of men and men who have been in the business for a very long time, and I think until that happens, the consciousness, it goes the same for minorities, for example. If you have surrounded yourself by people who who are competent, may not necessarily be of a certain ethnicity or may not be of a certain gender, you're used to doing things this way. But until you sort of open yourself up, and until women and minorities really start to flood those executive positions, I think that's when we'll see real change start to happen.
Right.
I think that women also need to support each other. Oftentimes, women can, be rather competitive and catty with each other, but we really need to hold each other up and look at each other as each other's sisters.
The pale male hegemony at the top is what has to change, you're right, and solidarity below, so that there is no more above and below. Thank you both so much for being here with us on Women's Media Center Live, and congratulations again on the Sisterhood is Powerful Award to the two of you from the Women's Media Center. You're just something else. You're terrific.
Thanks, Robin. We are so delighted and honored to receive this award. We really are so excited. Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll take another break here. This is Women's Media Center Live, the talk show with a brain. And I'm Robin Morgan. What do activism, humor, HIV/AIDS, and red shoes have in common? We'll find out in just a minute.
If you ever need an organ transplant, you will probably die before you get one. Thousands of Americans die waiting every year. You can improve your odds by joining LifeSharers, and it's free. Visit lifesharers.org or call 888-ORGAN-88. LifeSharers puts organ donors first. When you join LifeSharers, you get preferred access to the organs of other members. This could literally save your life. Join LifeSharers today. There's no age limit. Parents can enroll their minor children, and no one is excluded due to any pre-existing medical condition. Call 888-ORGAN-88 or visit lifesharers.org. That's LIFESHARERS.org. LifeSharers. It's free. It could save your life.
You're listening to Women's Media Center Live with Robin Morgan on 1580 Gov.biz Radio, a CBS station.
Welcome back. Welcome back to Women's Media Center Live. Luvvie Ajayi is the winner of the 2012 Women's Media Center Social Media Award. She's a humor writer, a social media strategist, a trainer in social media, and she's been blogging for 9 years, 6 of them at awesomelyluvvie.com, where her site, which combines pop culture commentary with humor and a voice for gender and racial justice. When we talked, I asked her, how did she get started?
I just started blogging when I was in college, just writing about my mundane life, the boring college stuff, talking about exams. Mm-hmm. And when I graduated from college, I'm like, okay, let's talk about more specific things like what's going on in the world. And I just started blogging about that, and people started laughing. naturally, I'm just really silly and goofy, so it translated to my writing, and it's been 6 years, and people are still laughing, so I'm still doing it.
And it's won awards. It's called awesomelyluvvie.com, by the way, for you, those of you who have not yet visited the site, which is hilarious. And then how did this passion for social justice come in together with the humor? Justice and humor is an unbeatable combination.
In college, I started doing projects because I was a counseling center paraprofessional. My degree's actually in psychology, and social justice actually started jumping out at me because I was seeing like problems in the world, and I'm just like, we can fix this. And then I met someone who had 20 cousins who were orphaned by HIV. She's from Malawi, and her grandmother was raising all these 20 cousins. And I'm just like, how can I help? What can I do? So I ended up on her board, and when I graduated from college, I've been doing nonprofit work since then. But for me, I think laughter is life's best medicine, and it comes as something that I use too. Like, if I'm feeling terrible, I will go read something that I think is going to be funny to feel better. So I figured I can infuse that myself into my work.
Brilliant.
That's my passion.
It gives perspective also, and insight. If you can get people to laugh, there's a click that goes deeper than all the political rhetoric, and faster. Talked about the Red Pump Project that you founded.
I founded it in 2009 with a friend of mine, Karen Watkins, and we were just sitting around having a conversation, and I said, I want to do something around HIV and red shoes, because I think red is the power, the color of HIV, and I think red shoes are super powerful. We should mesh it. So she's like, Girl Day's coming up. We could do something. She came up with the name, the Red Pump Project. And we just sent out an email to 50 of our blogger friends, and we said, hey, on March 10th, can you just dedicate your blog post to talking about epidemic and use this red shoe and put on 0 red shoes that day? And that's how we got started. The day happened, and in a week, got 135 bloggers to actually do that. And they talk about all types of different topics, but on that day, they united to talk about this disease.
Wow.
And that's how we got started. And everyone's like, so what's next? And now we're a nonprofit organization, and we've grown into a movement where Alicia Keys was tweeting, I'll rock the Red Pump on March 10th.
Wow. You're focusing on HIV/AIDS in terms of women and girls internationally as well as in the U.S.?
Right now we focus on the U.S. However, on March 10th, we actually get people from all over the globe rocking red shoes.
Wow.
And the reason we know this is because this past one, we had women upload pictures of them in red shoes on our Facebook fan page, and women from Paris were uploading pictures, in Germany, and we were just like, wow.
HIV/AIDS is the most common cause of death among young African-American women in this country.
25 to 34.
So the Red Pump Project then is mostly one of getting consciousness and then getting people active and talking about it, or does it work to provide services, or what else does it do?
What we mainly do is just raise awareness and educate people about the issue. Because our belief is if you know better, you'll do better. So we do workshops, and we started to do more workshops for teenage girls too, because we figure if we empower them as teenagers, they'll become empowered adults.
Absolutely.
They can make better choices with their bodies. Yeah. So Red Pump does education awareness, and we want to decrease the stigma because we feel like it's a very important piece of why this epidemic is so big. Let's talk about it so it's not in secrecy.
Yeah.
So we'll go on Twitter and have a Twitter chat about, hey, when's the last time you got tested?
Yeah. And you're using their own media. You're using young media, so you come in as a friend. You're not from outside.
Exactly.
You're not an alien, older voice. Speaking of alien voices, although not necessarily older ones, let's talk for just a minute about the male supremacy and the white supremacy on the web. You know that there's been a lot of feminist organizing and defense attempted about the cyber stalking. The whole there's a whole movement, I think, in among gamers. Just a huge amount of sexism and racism that comes out as if it had never existed, other than in the virtual world, as if it was newly invented. What do you think about that, and what do you think can be done about that?
The funny thing about the web, the good and the bad thing, is it's a pretty great microcosm of the real world. Like, if you want to see how people are thinking, you might actually want to log into Twitter, because you'll see all the good and the bad.
Yeah.
And I think what we have to do to combat it, honestly, is we have to challenge these people who are saying these things. For example, the night of the election this last week, it was incredibly tension-filled online.
Yeah.
There was a lot of racism, there was a lot of sexism. Now that there are 20 women in the Senate, which is historical.
Yes.
I saw a man making the comment of, okay, now that we have equal rights, can we beat women?
I see. Ha, ha, ha.
Our job is to really challenge it. And also, our male allies need to challenge their fellow men.
Exactly. Yeah, because sometimes guys will listen to guys when they won't listen to women,
Exactly. So the men who identify as feminists also need to step up on our behalf to say, hey, that's actually not funny.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we'll do it. And with you on our side, we get to do it together. I'm so grateful that you did this interview, and I'm so grateful that you exist and blog as you do, and I look forward to an amazing further career from you.
Thank you for having me, and to the Women's Media Center. Thank you so much.
Thank you for being on Women's Media Center Live. Awesomely lovey. And now it's time for Fighting Words. As the Republican Party thrashes about trying to assign blame for its recent losses, former vice presidential candidate Paul Ryan has the answer. Ryan, who's still in Congress, still House Budget Committee chair, and now positioned as a contender for the GOP presidential candidacy in 2016, has learned a lot of nothing. Shrugging off losing in his home county and hometown of Janesville, Wisconsin, he explained that voters had come to view him as Paul Ryan Republican instead of Paul Ryan Janesville guy once he became a national figure. This goes beyond self-delusion. This is self-spin. It seems not to occur to Ryan and colleagues that their political positions might be why they lost. No, he goes on to blame where they lost. The surprise was some of the turnout, especially in urban areas, he said, mystified. See, it was the fault of those damned cities. Where people are. And after so much money, effort, and creativity went into discouraging those people from voting, too. Does Ryan think only other ultra-conservatives are able to translate his code? By now, everybody knows that urban is a pseudo-polite, racist euphemism for black. But I have news for you, Paul. Urban means groups other than African Americans, too. It means a passionate mix of classes and ethnic groups and academics and business people and artists and shopkeepers and moguls and bums. My own beloved city vibrates urban energy. We who live here are so used to the range of skin color we mingle with on every bus and subway, so used to hearing 4 different accents in 3 different languages while walking a single block, that other places, even other cities, seem just a little dimmer to us. For instance, wonderful, wonderful Copenhagen is great, but unsettling because everybody there is tall, has perfect teeth and yellow eyelashes, and looks like they just stepped out of an Ingmar Bergman film. Yet the point isn't a comparison of cities, but a comparison of cities to rural areas. I'm a deep in my marrow New Yorker, but I've spent many months at a quiet farm in a community that gave rural new meaning. Yes, the air was clear, and you could see the stars without the glare of street lamps. Yes, the pace was slower, the silence profound. So was the sense of isolation, the repression of emotion and expression. With all their beauty and admittedly calmer rhythms of living, it's the Midwest farming states whose happy family communities have the highest rate of domestic violence, spousal battery, physical and sexual child abuse, alcoholism, divorce, religiosity, even higher rates of suicide. All those yearning adolescents, those abuse survivors and lesbian and gay kids and wannabe painters and dancers and novelists, where do they run to toward freedom at the first opportunity? The great Emerald City of Oz. So, Paul, demonize us because we city dwellers are more used to learning how to live together with people unlike ourselves, which means, yes, we're more what you'd call liberal. If, then, we put this election over the top, good for us, and hooray for cities. But the truth, Mr. Janesville guy, is that your ticket also lost hugely in a number of mostly white rural states like New Hampshire and Iowa, and bombed in swing state rural counties in Colorado, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Virginia, and your own Wisconsin. In fact, your party's rural support has been eroding for some time. It's what you stand for, Paul, not where you're standing. And that's it for this week. You've been listening to us on CBS station 1580 gov.biz AM radio in Washington, D.C., and on the web at WMClive.com, which also has podcasts of all our previous shows. Remember to email us at womensmediacenterlive@gmail.com. Portions of this program were taped earlier. Views expressed here do not represent the WMC. Here's the family for Women's Media Center Live. WMC President and for this program Executive Producer Julie Burton, Senior Producer Crystal Williams Chancellor, Technical Director Michelle Kinsey Bruns, Production Assistant Nora Eakin, and our founding sponsor Regina Kulik Scully. I'm Robin Morgan. Next week, a Thanksgiving show with guests to be thankful for. A Lakota Native activist, an organic food chef, and the hilarious, wise Kathy Najimy talking about feminist comedy. Join us next Saturday, 11 a.m. here at Women's Media Center Live.
You're listening to Women's Media Center Live with Robin Morgan on 1580 gov.biz radio, a CBS station.